Welcome back, everyone, to 305 Takes. And today we got a good episode for you guys. So, for anyone knowing, we are recording this Sunday night, and today is Monday when this is being released. And we had to come on this night because a lot has gone on before the Sunday night game, and primarily some very, very big news just in the football world and how we saw it for the 1 o'clock games. The 4 o'clock games, not as much, but I think we could go straight into it because Miles has a lot to say about this one. We're going to start off with the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos, and people that was embarrassing. The final score was 70-20 Dolphins, and Miles texted me right a couple of times during the game, and oh man, that game was insane. Miles, that's your hometown team. I know how much you love your Dolphins, so go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
I mean, what can you even say about that? It's 70 points for the Miami Dolphins, and it doesn't even like you can look at the final score and like be like, okay, wow, the Dolphins absolutely smacked the Denver Broncos, but it doesn't even do it justice. Like the fact that they were able to put up 300 yards passing and 300 yards rushing in the same game is crazy. And shout out Raheem Mostert, shout out Devin Etienne. Like it's crazy how they are able to move the ball sometimes, and when that offense is clicking and you do it without Jalen Waddle on the field, like that's the part that's impressive to me is that it's like okay, Tyreek is still out there, and you see I don't even understand like it's honestly more embarrassing than I think it is impressive for the Dolphins because the Broncos. I mean, you saw that first drive where the drive where Tyreek gets the touchdown. It's like what exactly was the defense there? Like no one is around him, and and that's without Waddle out there. So I couldn't believe that they scored 70 points in a game, especially coming from the Miami Dolphins and like being a fan of this team, like and how we've struggled throughout my entire life to score and move the ball consistently. To have that happen, put up 726 yards of total offense. That's insane.
Bro, just think about the transformation this team had went through from that terrible opener with Brian Flores losing to the Ravens in embarrassing fashion, where Minka Fitzpatrick like begs to be traded right after that second, to now where bro, you scored 70 points in a game. Like
Yeah,
that's Madden numbers. This is what people
yeah,
do in
literally.
Madden, for like just one of those days like, all right, I'm just gonna go try to score 100 on Madden. You got close, you got to 70, but the Dolphins, bro, I don't know if like to me it's like a tale of two, and I wouldn't argue as to what if someone were to say it's more Dolphins or more Broncos, because I felt the Denver Broncos, bro, like what was that?
Dude, that is bad. That
Like
is bad.
that is awful. 70 points for a defense that comes into the year where everyone's like, hey, you're a good team. But man, like how you said it, like the Dolphins, 700 yards of offense? Like, come on now. I'm sorry, and the team rushes for 350 yards. What team in the modern era in the past 20 years has rushed for 300 yards?
Yeah.
That's
I think the
unbelievable.
only thing I can the only tweet that I saw, I think that the 49ers may have gotten to 300 on that game against the Packers in the
Oh,
playoffs.
okay, fair
That's
enough.
the only team that I've seen. And then I even saw this stat that the Dolphins forced the fourth team ever, including the playoffs, with 70 plus points in a game and first since 1966. Second team ever to record 700 plus total yards of offense, joining the LA Rams, who had 735 in a game that happened in 1951. 1951.
It's
So the Dolphins
history.
once again scored 70 points and recorded 726 yards of total offense. And the craziest part to me is that I can't remember the Dolphins like getting to 50 that much in my life. Like that's the part that I can't like, okay, that's one thing. But to get to 70 and to have a chance to score even more, but they took out Tua and they still went bombs away. That was pretty
Mike
cool.
White.
Mike White to Chosen Anderson, that was pretty cool. Two Broward guys scoring on the 70-point game. And then just the fact that just the fact that you had questions about the offensive line going into the season, and I think the biggest question about the team was like, okay, we know what we can be when Tua is healthy. How can we do that? And I mean, there hasn't even been the slightest the slightest question about anything regarding this offense.
Yeah,
And the defense was shaky week one, but outside of that,
they
they've
put
been
it
pretty
really
lights out.
together. They've had
Yeah,
really
and I
good
mean,
games.
you have to be impressed too, like because you think like, okay, Jalen Phillips misses last week.
Mhm.
Andrew Van Ginkel steps up, has a great game. This week, you get Phillips back. Van Ginkel still making plays all over the place. You've been missing Jalen Ramsey. Secondary hasn't been torched. And I thought, okay, maybe this is the game, especially because we saw Denver last week have success when they started throwing the ball all over the place against Washington. We saw Brandon Johnson go ahead get that Hail Mary that they had right before the 2 point conversion that did work. Mims, who had the kickoff return in this game, had 100 yards last week as well. And that's not to mention that Judy was healthy, Sutton was healthy. So I thought especially because they figured that they were going to have to score with how this Dolphins offense was going. That this might be a problem. Okay, this is finally the game that the Dolphins secondary gets exposed, but nothing of that happened even close to that.
Yeah. I do want to mention one thing before we continue on with the subject. Did you read the QBR and quarterback ratings from this game?
No, I haven't seen. The only thing I saw was that Tua had another 2 point something seconds to get the ball out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the
So
QB stats.
the QBR, the scale is goes from 0 to 100. Guess who had the highest QBR in the game?
Uh, Probably Mike White.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was Mike White is 100, Tua 88. With that I disagree with. I think Tua honestly should have had 90 should have been the lowest because he was 23 or 26 for 309 yards, four touchdowns, no picks.
yeah.
Like what he didn't do anything wrong. And then Russell Wilson, I mean, it was 67. I thought it was worse, if I'm being honest, but that's just me. But I do want to go on to the next part of it is that, like how we've said, 70 points. Like that is rare to see in a football game. The only thing that went through my head when I saw that they hit 70, I'm like, I'm hoping for the Dolphins, for their sake, that this doesn't turn out like it does in an NBA and MLB team when we see them score so many runs the day before their next game, they can't score to save their life. I've seen it with the Heat. There's nights where the Heat will drop like
Yeah, but that's
130 and
yeah,
then I
but
wouldn't see
that's
them crack
games you
90.
have back to back or
Yeah.
every other day.
Yeah,
Dolphins
so
don't play
that's
till
where like
Sunday.
that's the only thing in my fear. I was like, man, I've seen so much in sports. Like I hope it doesn't because I want them to have a good game against the Buffalo Bills. Because I think that could be a very, very interesting game now because everyone's gonna look at, hey, the Dolphins can really put a run in now in their schedule because their
I mean, I
schedule,
think after this game, you have to seriously consider them the best team in the AFC.
yeah, I mean, they're 3-0 at this moment. If they beat Buffalo, they'll be 4-0. I really like their chances in the next three games against the Giants. I feel like they can win that game. Carolina, I feel like they can win. Philadelphia, I give them a real good shot at beating Philadelphia because Philadelphia's defense now, you can really attack them now. You can attack them, and their offense is really inconsistent now. So I feel like if the Dolphins can really, attack the middle of the field with whatever weapons they have that day, because I love Jalen Waddle, but bro, I feel like every week now he's just gonna be hurt for the rest of his career. That's just the truth. Bro,
How?
bro, every week last year I felt like he was hurt. It was like, oh, here's the injury report. He's doubtful, he's questionable. I'm like, all right, at this point, I just know Jalen Waddle will if he's ever 100% healthy, that's when I would really be like, okay, finally. But I am so excited for next week because the only thing I just wish it wasn't a 1 o'clock game. I wish it would have been like 4:30 or maybe prime time. But the one great weekend for the Dolphins. I'm
Yeah, it,
I mean,
it,
it's like
it
you
it
said,
really
best team in
was.
the
It
AFC
really
right now, if I have to say.
it really was special. And I mean, there was a little bit of like maybe we should have seen this coming because not only is this Sean Payton returning, who said last year when he was an NBC analyst that he foresaw Tua being benched at some point in the season for Teddy Bridgewater, which, you know, at the time, I don't think was the craziest thing to say because there were questions around Tua, and Teddy is a guy that played for Sean Payton, and he knew how he was as a backup quarterback. Remember, he went, I think it was 4-0 in that
Yeah, with the
season.
Saints.
Yeah, where he had Teddy and uh, Sean Payton was the coach there. But also, we have Vic Fangio, who's coming back as defensive coordinator for the Dolphins, and he used to be a former Broncos head coach. Mike McDaniel, who used to be a Denver Broncos ball boy, and who, when they had the head coaching vacancy in 2022, never got an interview. And because Sean Payton came out and he was like, oh, whoever the coach was last year for the Denver Broncos was pretty
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh gosh.
I wonder if he looks in the mirror and says, wow, the Denver Broncos still have a pretty terrible coach, because giving up 70 points is crazy. And when you put it into context and realize that they were 0-2 coming into this game, like
Hmm.
this was kind of like where you needed to get a victory so your season doesn't start off terribly. And then to fall to 0-3 and give up 70 points with your new coach, like a lot of that shine goes out the window.
And where your defense is supposed to be like the recognition of your team, you have Patrick Surtain, you have Randy Gregory, you have a lot of very good players on that defense, and you couldn't stop anything. Even how we said, Mike White and Chosen, formerly known as Robbie Anderson, scored with ease. It was that's bad. Like that is very, very bad. But I mean, we could also say this is more in the Dolphins. The Dolphins, they showed how powerful they could be when everything is clicking, when everything is going right. I mean, like how you said, I don't know how they're not right now the best team in the AFC. Obviously, it's very early because it's only week three, but this was a huge statement from the Dolphins, a huge statement.
It was. I think it speaks a lot of this team. And Mike McDaniel, I think it's honestly one of the best offensive schemes that we see. And I saw a stat that it was 70% of their runs, even with them getting 300 yards this game, was against a light box with seven or less defenders in the box, because you have to be prepared for Tua to pick you apart or to send other defenders at Tyreek Hill so he doesn't beat you over the top.
Man, well, what a game. But I feel like now we can maybe transition because if we were to go into the fantasy aspects of it for everyone, just on how many Dolphins players are going to be targeted on waivers, I think we will be able to talk all night about that. But let's get to the Nets game where we had some questions and we want to talk about was the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Chargers, where both of the teams were 0-2 coming into today, and the Chargers were able to steal a win 28-24. And I feel like we could start right at the end because we texted about this. What was with the Vikings?
I mean, this was, I think, the battle of the most incompetent coaches, because this is insane. The fact that Brandon Staley is now going to be 1-2 with Justin Herbert after blowing that. After I still can't get over. I know he got mad at the media reporter for asking him about the hangover of that Jacksonville result, but the fact that your team barely escaped against the Vikings team that did not want to win that game at all, at all, at all. They had no interest in wanting to win that game. And if not for a boneheaded decision by Kirk Cousins to at least not stop the clock and get everybody in line and ready to go, you're looking at 0-3 and probably losing your job. Like, I'm sorry, like losing your job if you're 0-3 with this team. I don't understand what goes on with either of these teams. And it's not like you can point at anything really dramatic other than like the JC Jackson news of him, signing this contract last year. Then today he's healthy and active. So, and that's when you're going up against a team that has Justin Jefferson, like that's exactly what you signed him for, is to match up and feel comfortable in that matchup with a true number one wide receiver. So I don't even know what to make of this game. I tweeted at the Vikings. I was like, look, I think just cut your losses, trade Kirk to the Jets for whatever it is. I don't care if it's a fifth round pick. Like, just cut your losses, trade Kirk to the Jets. Tell Justin Jefferson, we're going to feed you the ball. If you feel any type of injury, any hamstring tightness, whatever, we'll shut you down. Take Caleb Williams first, tank for Caleb. And then how cool would it be if Caleb Williams comes into the NFL with Jordan Addison, his former USC receiver, and Justin Jefferson
And TJ
with Hawkinson?
Hawkinson, all of them
Like,
locked up as well. Justin Jefferson is going to get his contract, so then they'll all be locked up for years. And then the only issue they will have to fix is probably the running back because the running back situation is probably the only thing that would be concerning. But man, like you said, when I saw it was like the last drive, they're right there. It's first and goal. And I'm like, okay, they're gonna spike the football. They don't have any timeouts. They wasted all that time on the clock just to throw a pick. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And how Miles said it, I felt the same way. The Vikings had no intention of winning this game. They did everything they could to lose. And the one thing, like we talked about it many times with Brandon Staley, your calling card is supposed to be your defense. You were defense coordinator for Rams. That's the reason why you got the job. You have Joey Bosa, you have Khalil Mack, you have J.C. Jackson, you have Derwin James, you have Eric Kendricks. You have a lot of good players on that defense, and I have not seen one good defensive game from them. I really haven't. I understand injuries play a part in it in football, and every team deals with that. But still, like if you're a defensive coordinator, you should have a scheme good enough for even when your backups are in, they should at least be competent and able to do it. And I just don't see it. I really don't. The defense for the Chargers ever since he's came has not been good.
and they do just weird stuff. Like it's just really weird football. Like there was a video of week one of Khalil Mack lined up outside directly opposing Tyreek Hill. Like that makes sense to anybody. And like this game is so weird when you look at the box score because uh Los Angeles, I almost called them San Diego. I'm never gonna get that out of my head. But San Diego or Los Angeles had 475 offense yards. Minnesota 475 offense yards. The Chargers 12 penalties for 94 yards in penalties. The Vikings 6 penalties for 45 yards. Okay, not that bad. Then we look at the two quarterbacks. Matt, which guy do you think won this game? 41 for 48. 41 for 48 for a completion percentage of 85.4. 445 yards passing. 9.3 yards per attempt. 4 passing touchdowns. 0 interceptions and one time sacked for a passer rating of 133.1.
Mm-hmm.
That's one Justin Herbert, who just won his first game of the year.
Oh, and that's with to shave off some of those yards because about 50 of those came from Keenan Allen.
No, this is just Herbert. This is just Herbert, not even team passing yards. That's just Herbert stats.
Oh,
That's
never
just
mind.
Herbert stats.
Oh, yeah.
He
So
set
that
he set the highest completion percentage on and at least 45 attempts in an NFL game. 85.4. He was 41 of 48.
which
And
isn't
they
bad.
won by 4 points.
Yeah, which is not bad. But that also shows that you just chose not to run the football at all. Like it's straight passing and that's it.
Which okay, I understand because your lead back, Austin Eckler hasn't played, and you have Josh Kelly who looked good in the one opportunity, but this is what they rushed for: 15 carries, 30 yards. 15 carries for 30 yards. This is against the same team that DeAndre Swift went for almost 200 yards last week. And then just to play devil's advocate, okay, they maybe they had a bad game rushing the ball on offense. The Vikings, who didn't have a rushing touchdown going into this week and were so not found of their running game, they traded for a cast off Cam Akers from the Los Angeles Rams because they weren't impressed with their running game. They went for 24 carries, 134 yards, 5.4 yards per carry.
The one time
And
Minnesota
that's with
chooses to
and
run the
that's
ball.
against the defensive coach, right?
Yep. And the one time, because Minnesota never runs the football. We can say that ever since Kirk Cousins has been there, like for the past 2 years, they choose not to run the football.
It's just crazy. And then it's like, what was that fourth down play? Like I swear he has somebody that's up there like this is my ass batted. Like I'm just gonna hit X and then I'm gonna wait to see what play they run and I'm not gonna ask any questions. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just sending it in. We got it, boys. I ass matted. Don't worry about it.
Yep. For anyone who doesn't know, this was like a little joke that happened in our fantasy football group chat, and our good friend of the show, Alex, even said it too. He was like, "Bro, the Chargers game is crazy, bro. Ask Madden what to do in that situation." And Miles was like, right on the spot.
Dude, literally, like literally, it didn't make any sense. Brandon Staley, like, I want to know, I want to know how it feels to have a job that like you're like, wow, I can't believe they keep me around. Like, I can't believe like I made
They
it
still
another
have me
week. We
here.
got out of Minnesota.
They still have me here. I still
He
live in Los Angeles.
definitely
I'm
like
getting a
he's
good
definitely like how
paycheck.
long until they notice? Like how you think I make it another week? He's definitely like in his group chat with his boys, like close one this week, boys. But we're back to LA.
It's like, guys, whoever bet on me to get fired this week, well, they could cut their losses now.
Oh, oh God,
At this
just
point, this is the new Cliff Kingsbury for Miles.
yeah, literally, literally. I mean, it's just crazy because like their games are just fascinating,
It's
fascinating.
always a
It's an
one score
experiment.
game. Always a one score game.
And it's like they're coaching a team for the first time. It's like they don't have one thing to fall back on. It's like, oh, we just put this team together this week. Let's see how they respond.
Yep.
It's
And
crazy.
I mean, I will give credit to the offense. I do think the offense is now a lot better with Kellen Moore, but I also do want to bash on Kellen Moore, like we talked about, because the running game is non-existent now. Because week one,
They
Kelly
ran
was
all over the Dolphins.
awesome,
Ran
and he
all
just
over the Dolphins.
yeah ran all over the Dolphins. After that, the Dolphins have looked great with Vic Fangio as the defense coordinator. Now you you can't rush the ball. I understand you have Herbert, and yes, you want him to throw the ball, but also if you have a running game, don't you think the passing game would open up a lot more, and then you won't be putting your receivers in situations to get hurt, aka
Especially
Mike
when you're
Williams?
killing it in the running in the passing game. Like they had to at some point make an adjustment and leave the box empty. And they still couldn't even get the first down. It's insane. It's
Yeah,
insane. It's insane.
man. I mean, our questions would just be like, they're lucky we're not their reporters, because bro, imagine if we were reporters, we'll be like, bro, what was that?
I mean, and I get it that they won. I get it. I respect the win. A win is a
Yeah.
win. Don't question it. But sometimes it's just like, oh my goodness, like, do people remember these things actually happen, or they only remember the win?
Yep. It's kind of like last year with the Vikings. Everyone talked about their wins. They got a lot of wins, but we're like, are they really that good? Where it's
Yeah, it's crazy.
both of these teams are in bad situations, and I don't even mind the one that he said for the Vikings. Just trade into the Jets, see what you could get out of them, and then you tank for Caleb. And if you get Caleb Williams, I actually love that for Minnesota. I love that. I
Well,
feel like
it,
it'll
it
be
also
great.
like is a good time to reset because
Yeah.
you're gonna have to take care of Justin Jefferson. Like that's like I'm looking at it from that perspective. You know how to take care of Justin Jefferson. You already committed to Hawkinson. Cousins. How old is Cousins? Cousins been in the NFL for a while now. I mean, look
Since
at his
same year as RG3, he was drafted.
yeah. So I was gonna say, look at the guy that he was drafted with in the second round. He's now permanently on TV, and he really hasn't. You can't say a lot about his tenure because it's not like he led them to the Super Bowl or anything, but he was consistently having them in the mix while Aaron Rodgers was in the division, whatever. But now you look at the Lions have gotten a lot better and they have young talent coming up. Uh, the Packers seem to have been able to transition from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. The Bears are going to be probably one of your toughest competitors for this first pick. And I know that they have Justin Fields, but he's still on his rookie deal, and they have the Panthers draft pick that they can use to leverage to go leap ahead of you if this is where it comes down to, if it comes down to Caleb Williams. And I also think that there's a reverse case scenario where the Vikings can take Drake May or another quarterback, like whoever it happens to be. It might not be Caleb Williams, or it might not be to that effect, but at least you can restart. You can get Jefferson taken care of, have his contract start running while you have a quarterback on a rookie deal. I mean, they haven't had a good defense in 4 or 5 years now. Like their
Yeah.
defense has been one of the weaker spots on the team, and the offense has been the one that's consistently propelled them and held up their end of the bargain because they had Dalvin Cook while he was in his prime. They had Cousins. They had Jefferson. They had Diggs. So like, there's not They had Thielen. Thielen was amazing for them, but now it's like time to start that new chapter in Vikings history. So that's personally why I'd go down that route, especially when you already started 0-3.
Yeah.
And I don't think, for as much as I criticize Staley, I don't think that they have a bad coach or a bad infrastructure. I just think they need to get a little bit younger and start that new chapter.
Yeah. I know. I completely agree. I wouldn't mind that. And it also, like how you said, a good reset. I think that would be a perfect reset for their defense. Because man, like how the last time their defense was good was when they went to the NFC Championship game and got smacked by the Eagles. That was the last time they had a good defense. Ever since then, they have been middle of the tier to bad. So I I wouldn't mind that reset at all. At all. I wouldn't mind that reset. But I think we can transition now to a different uh game or topic. So Miles, you got any game you want to give a quick shout out to?
So the one that I found pretty entertaining was this Texans Jaguars game. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with how the Texans' young pieces have come together so far. And, you know, CJ Stroud looks, I would say, the best out of any of the rookie quarterbacks. I know it's still only week 3, and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young didn't play this week, but CJ Stroud goes 20 of 30, 280 yards, 9.3 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Didn't get sacked once in this game, had a 118 quarterback rating, and that's on the road. And the most impressive part I thought was just all their young guys in particular. You had CJ Stroud, Tank Dell went for 5 receptions, 145 yards, and a touchdown. Will Anderson, their other number first round pick, he was able to block a punt. I believe he had 2 quarterback hurries in this one. They had one of the rookie linebackers had 10 tackles in the game. So this Texan team is one that I think is coming along pretty well. We were looking forward to what they were going to have in the future, but I think they played the Ravens really well in week 1, especially with going on the road with CJ Stroud in his first career start. And now you go to a divisional rival. You play the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, and you kind of make them look pretty bad.
Yeah. No,
This game was never really close.
yeah, no, I thought the Jaguars were going to steamroll them, considering how the first 2 weeks looked for the Texans. But no, like you said, a lot of credit to the Texans. They played much, much better than I expected. I mean, I can't fault them. And like how you said, CJ Stroud, he looked really good today. I can't be mad with how he played. I like the connection him and Tank Dell have. I believe that's going to carry on more throughout the season goes on. And if the Texans could at least keep it going, who knows? Maybe this could string along more good draft picks that they have because clearly their drafts from last year is looking good so far. CJ Stroud has looked good. I like Will Anderson a lot. I had him rated very high coming into the draft. Tank Dell, I thought was a good steal in the draft, but that one is good. The one game I do want to also hit also with you just because this one shocked me. The Colts and the Ravens. I had picked the
Minshew
Ravens to go
magic.
to the Super Bowl, and now I feel scared of that pick because
Minshew magic.
I get Minshew magic. Nothing against Gardner Minshew, but I really thought the Ravens had a good shot this year at going to Super Bowl, bro. Now I don't know. I know it's early in the season, but I did not like how they look in any of the 3 games outside of the
They
Bengals
just
one.
have
I,
so many injuries. It's
so
insane.
many.
So many injuries. I really don't understand how they have so many injuries in just week 3 of the season. And I do feel you, but it was definitely pass interference on Isaiah Flowers
Yeah,
playing
no,
into it.
I agree on that, but I'm just like, man, like, come on. I don't
Yeah,
even think
you
this
shouldn't
game
have
should have
to
gone to
rely on that
overtime.
to beat the Colts. Yeah, yeah.
It
With their
shouldn't
backup quarterback.
it shouldn't have gone to overtime with a backup quarterback. Because if Anthony Richardson was there and they were playing how the way they were before he got hurt,
I wish he did play because it would have been a cool matchup to have Richardson and Lamar playing
yeah,
together and seeing, especially with Richardson already having, I think he has what, 3 rushing touchdowns already,
yeah,
and
already.
in entering week 3. So
And
I
that's
thought
with
that would
him
have been
missing
cool.
the second half of one game.
Yeah, so I thought that would have been cool. And I do feel you on the Ravens, but they just have so many injuries. We haven't even seen Marlon Humphrey play for them yet. We saw J.K. Dobbins go down week 1. Then they bring in, and then it's like they bring in these guys that are like kind of washed, but not really washed, but kind of washed. So like they have Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards feels like he's been a Raven for like 7 years now, just waiting
He's always
for
been the
the
backup.
starter to get hurt. Yeah, just waiting for the starter to get hurt. And then the guy behind him is Kenyon Drake. And then Kenyon Drake's just always kind of there. He's gonna fumble. He's gonna have a big fumble for them, and then they're gonna get rid of Kenyon Drake. And then Melvin Gordon. We already know Melvin Gordon and Mr. Fumbling on the goal line every year of his career. Like the only person I can ever associate with fumbling on the goal line is Melvin Gordon. But I think a positive is Flowers, even though he hasn't had, I would say, the eye popping numbers that he had week one, he's been really good. And I think Lamar has definitely built a good relationship with him already as a rookie. I think there's still a lot of opportunities to get Mark Andrews more involved in this offense. So I do think there's a room for improvement for them, especially if they can get some of these guys that they have banged up back healthy and into the lineup. So I wouldn't feel too bad about it, but yeah, it is concerning when you lose to the Colts, especially. But we do love some Minshew magic.
Yeah. No, credit to Gardner Minshew. I thought his first year when he was in Jacksonville when Nick Foles went down, I was like, yo, I like Gardner Minshew. And for anyone who doesn't know, he went to Denver 1 year. No, Denver didn't have Russ at this time, but he went into Denver and beat them. And he actually played really well during the Jags. But that was my little 2 cents on that.
I also I also think that we might be on new quarterback watch in Tennessee.
I think so too, because bro,
It's
it does not look good.
and to lose to the Browns like this, I get that, you know, this was a bad matchup for Tennessee because they're really, really weak up front, really weak up front. And I think I mean, it was probably one of the most hilarious videos that we'll see this week. And the fact that they knew that this was happening, Miles Garrett went from one side of the offensive line to the other, then shifted back to the other side, and two tight ends followed him both times.
Yeah.
That's how worried and aware of where Miles Garrett was at all times that Tennessee had two guys motion over to where Miles Garrett
Yeah.
was. And
That's bro,
let me just read
that's
you some of these offensive stats in a game that finished 27-3. So you might start thinking like, oh, we're going to start passing the ball a little bit more to try to stay in, keep this game close. Ryan Tannehill, 13 of 25, 104 yards, 4.2 yards an attempt, zero touchdowns, zero interceptions, a long of 33, sacked 5 times with a quarterback rating of 62. I think
yeah, I think
it
it's
might
time.
be time, especially when you have two young guys behind him.
Yeah,
Like,
it's nothing
might as
against
well see if
Ryan.
one of them can run around and make some plays. We're seeing that with Sam Howell. That's basically what Washington is doing, and that blew up in their face against a good team today. But I think I think it might be time, and it's going to be fascinating talking about this Cleveland team for the rest of the year because clearly Deshaun is nowhere near the level he was in
Bro,
Houston. Clearly.
when you send me that play, I just couldn't believe my eyes. Like for anyone who might have seen the play, there's a play. Deshaun is getting sacked. You see him fully around. He's looking at the other opposite
Turned
end of the field.
around.
He just throws that football.
Oh my God, bro. That was bad. Like clearly he's not the same guy that he was in Houston. But the thing is that defense and especially the defensive line is legit.
Yeah,
So we're
bro.
gonna have to talk about them because they're gonna be semi-playoff contenders, I
Yeah,
think, throughout the year. But clearly, Deshaun is not that guy anymore. And even though he had a good game today, Amari's clearly fallen off.
yeah.
So it's
I
like,
also think the quarterback play hasn't helped Amari. I feel like
yeah,
if
I feel you.
yeah,
But it's like, damn, they're really going no more Chubb. Kind of cooked Deshaun. Kind of cooked Amari Cooper and
with
Elijah
bringing back
Moore.
Kareem Hunt.
Like that's their big three in the passing game right now. And then whenever they decide to throw the ball to Njoku, and then he'll run for 52 yards and then not play for 6 weeks.
Yeah, where it's
They're gonna be so fun to talk about as we go throughout the rest of this year because I think that they're gonna stay around this playoff mix, especially because I don't know what's going to happen with Cincinnati. I mean, it looks like Joe Burrow might not play on this Monday night game.
Yep.
Uh, you
Which
know,
we are going to talk about because,
yeah, we just talked about Baltimore and their mounting injuries going into coming out of week 3 already. So we'll see how much of a mass unit that they, are going to be, especially because we saw this last year for them too. They went into the playoffs with Tyler Huntley as their starting quarterback. So I can't wait to continue to laugh at this Cleveland team who has, I think, just enough talent on offense that their defense will keep them together.
yeah, I completely agree with that because, like how we talked about, Miles Garrett is just amazing, and which is kind of hard to say because nothing against Miles Garrett. Because if you look at the draft, obviously Miles Garrett shouldn't have been the first overall pick. It should have been Patrick Mahomes.
Completely
Oh well,
different.
no, it's like if you look at hindsight, 2020, it's like, okay, obviously the first pick should
Completely
have been
different game.
Patrick Mahomes, but Miles Garrett has been an amazing first overall pick. Like he has been awesome for Cleveland ever since his first game. So a lot of credit, but we could always debate that on a different day. Let's get to the Monday night game because we got two this week
Yeah,
again.
again. Can they
Again.
stop doing this? I'm not a fan, especially because last week's were so bad.
They were bad. They were just bad.
They were so bad last week.
So bad. And now we have the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Tampa. And this could be somewhat of a good game. Tampa is 2-0, Philadelphia is 2-0. Philadelphia hasn't looked as good as they did last year. Tampa has kind of overplayed expectations from what the expectations were coming into the year after, losing Tom Brady, losing a couple of other key pieces. And then we also have, like you said, the Rams and the Bengals, where it looks like Joe Burrow might not play, and the Rams, who are still trying to salvage whatever team they had after the F them picks motto, and now some of their star players like Puka, he's hurt.
Puka Nuka.
Yeah, Puka's hurt. So out of these two Monday night games, which one are
Which
you
one's
most
worse?
likely going to watch?
I actually, you know what? I actually do kind of admire the Rams because I thought they were gonna be like, okay,
Awful.
I thought they were gonna be like Minnesota, how we talked to them, like, okay, you guys won the Super Bowl. Maybe it's time to, tell Stafford to go pack in and see what you can maybe get from Aaron Donald. Maybe, I'm just saying you already traded Jalen Ramsey. I'm just saying whatever, but they who did they beat in week 1?
Oh, they beat
Seattle.
yeah, Seattle.
And that's a team that I think is good. You can say they hung around the San Francisco game. Like they were
They
way more
played solid
competitive than I
for
would have
most of the
thought
game.
they would have been going into the season, especially because of how much I think of San Francisco. So they hung around in that one. And even though they have the F them pick models, that did not help as far as building depth or really quality players, but like Puka, most receptions through first 2 games ever for
Yeah,
any NFL player. And when you look at like Tutu Atwell, a guy that they used with
been
one of those
solid.
picks, and Stafford's getting him the ball. So like I do appreciate it. Kyron Williams, that like that's a guy that they've kind of developed. So I do kind of like it in that they're not just being terrible. Like they weren't all in and now they're all the way out. Let's reset. Like so I do appreciate that, especially because McVay has gotten criticism for being this offensive guru, but then you go to the Super Bowl, you only score 3 points. But then you go back to the Super Bowl and then you win. But then it's like now, okay, you've been flirting with retirement the last 2 years. How invested were you last year once Cup went out? Whatever the case may be. So you can nitpick his career as it's gone. So I do appreciate that. And then look on it on the flip side, Cincinnati is okay. You went to the Super Bowl. This is a former Super Bowl matchup, and now one team might fall to 0-3 if they don't win this game. And it's probably more likely that they do fall to 0-3 because they're not gonna. I would assume they're not gonna have Joe Burrow. I'm gonna go out and say it. I don't necessarily think there's a reason to rush him, even though that it is an extended week that they are going to be playing on Monday. But that is, and
Still, yeah,
especially with how much they've struggled on offense, I don't think it's the best plan to play him.
yeah. I actually agree with you on that one. For in terms of the Bengals' sake, I mean, obviously, if you go in three, it's very, very difficult to make the playoffs, especially in this AFC where there's so many good teams. But if you want a chance in the playoffs, like Joe Burrow has to be healthy. Like he has to be healthy. He has to be able to move because clearly his calf has been bothering him and he re-aggravated it pretty severely from what we saw last week. So like if I'm the Bengals, you might as well it's like, all right, if he doesn't play, fine. At least we still have Jamar Chase, we have T. Higgins, we have Joe Mixon, we have some pieces here that if we could just get solid quarterback
Yeah.
play,
Or
we
can
can
we
hang
game
on in
plan
these
to
games and maybe steal one and
yeah.
get a win.
Or
Where
can we game plan enough to get these guys open in space where they can go be incredible athletes and lead us to
yeah,
points or keep drives going, you know? How can we make their lives easier? And then, I think it's a little bit of a question like how you just mentioned about Miles Garrett and Patrick Mahomes, but like the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, so I don't think you can argue with the fundamental fact that drafting Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow was a good thing. But when Joe Burrow already missed time in his career with a knee injury, and now he's got this calf thing that's kind of really holding up their season. Is it a question on should they have drafted Sewell instead of
yeah,
Jamar Chase and
yeah,
help that
to
offensive
really
line more?
I know I was really on that. I
I
said
was we were really on that. Like,
like
yo, like
Penei
it'll
Sewell,
be
it's like,
cool
yo,
that they'll put
protect
up
the guy.
Madden numbers, but like they need to protect this guy.
Yeah. And obviously they kind of showed us up when they drafted Jamar Chase and got to the Super Bowl. And we're
Yeah,
like, we weren't bashing on Jamar Chase. We were like,
no,
this
not
guy's
at all.
legit.
It's just like what does that alternate world look like for the
Yeah.
Bengals? If they do draft Sewell.
Because we looked at the long term for Joe Burrow. We were like, hey, for the long term, if Penei Sewell lives up to what he is, he's going to be a franchise player, and you could have someone protecting Joe Burrow.
And with
Whereas
the way the receiver classes have been the last few years, where
you're
you
gonna
get a
get
guy like
solid
Amon-Ra
wide
St.
receiver play
Brown in
every
the fifth
year.
round, like there's different guys that come in. Jordan Addison was a first round pick this year, whatever the case may be. But that's just a fascinating, what if I think that we'll be able to look back on as the career plays out. But yeah, I think I really do kind of like that Rams Cincinnati game, even if it's not with Joe Burrow. But I have no idea what to make of Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, and I can't even wrap my mind around Baker Mayfield being 3-0 in the year of 2023.
Oh my gosh, bro. That one's just
So like it's not even a disrespect to the two teams. It's just like I haven't watched Tampa Bay as much as I would like to, but they're 2-0. And I
yeah,
didn't think that they would win week one against Minnesota, but that's on me.
yeah.
And
No,
then
I'm
Philly,
right there
I've
with you.
watched a little bit more of, and I don't think they're necessarily have taken a step back, but I don't think they have shown that they're as good as last year. So it's like, all right, I kind of want to see most of these teams work, but it's so weird because I can't imagine Baker being 3-0.
Yeah. Watch, this is how I see the Philadelphia game going. It's gonna start off in the first quarter. I don't know what's the over under on it, but I think AJ Brown will have six
Right now I'm
targets.
looking at 45.
Oh no, I meant for targets. I think AJ
Oh,
might have six in the first quarter alone.
oh, to make him feel better.
Yeah, to make him feel better after like because I do understand his frustration. And last time it's like, yeah, you're the number one receiver. They brought you in to be that guy.
Yeah.
And if you're barely getting the ball thrown to in two games, it's like, yo, like stop sending me on like 4 yard routes. Send me deep. Like, yo, let me work the field. Which I understood that, but I also was like, bro, you're up by like two touchdowns, and at that point, just running the ball is perfectly fine. So I have no idea why you got upset, but I think I think AJ Brown's gonna have a ton of targets this game. Devontae Smith will have like maybe I'm gonna make maybe seven. And then next week when they play Washington, Devontae Smith is gonna go crazy. I feel like
Well,
that's
I
what's gonna
also
happen.
wouldn't be surprised if they get Goddard involved too, because he's been a lot more quiet than I think any of us expected.
They got him a lot of targets to start the game last time, but it was all these 2 yard routes where
Yeah.
it's like you're not really using them like to attack the middle of the field. Like that's what really helped you last year.
Yeah,
Goddard would attack the middle of the field. You had Devontae Smith sometimes going deep, playing intermediate, and
exactly.
then AJ was just all over the field.
Yeah. And I think I mean they're just as talented, I would say, if not more, because I mean Jalen Carter's kind of been a menace to society since he stepped into the NFL. But uh I am interested by this game. I want to see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily as bad as Saints Panthers that we got last.
Oh, bro, I watched the game just because I had the Saints defense,
Mhm.
and trust me, there were so many times where I was like, can I please like switch this game? Like I need to switch this. But
Dude, this probably won't make it into the podcast, but I have no idea. I had the Sunday night game on, and it was a run play, and the defensive tackle straight up does not get blocked and tackles Garoppolo, but he was able to hand the ball off.
oh
So he
gosh,
got tackled for like a -5 yard gain, but Josh Jacobs had the ball. Dude, it's crazy.
bro.
We're showing the
Oh
replay right now.
gosh, Jimmy G, my worst nemesis.
His first home start as a Raider.
Good. I hope he loses.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Nothing
whoa.
against anyone, but like me and Miles, we could probably say we're both haters of like certain players or teams. So
Yeah, and WJ's that guy for Angel.
yeah, like bro, I think this guy sucks. Like
Yeah.
it's nothing against him personally, but it's just as a player, I just don't think he's good.
Yeah, he
But
just happens to be on teams that win. I feel you. I feel you.
yeah,
And you're like, yo,
but
but it's not because of him.
yeah, but we'll put that on the podcast. You know, it's always fun. But guys, we had a lot of fun with this. We're gonna try to get back to you during the week because we do have some other bets because we do like some of the games this week. This Thursday night game is very intriguing. Lions, Detroit. The Detroit Lions versus Green Bay Packers. We'll maybe try to help you guys with some prop bets. I know Miles is gonna do a little bit of studying on that one, so that way to
And we'll
get you
try to
guys
help
like
you out as far as fantasy, waiver wire ads, you guys to look at, maybe some trades. If you guys have any trades that you want us to discuss. We had an interesting one. We had two interesting ones
yeah,
in our league this week. So if you guys have any that are anything that is proposed to you or that you want to send out to somebody and you want us to either review it or what our take is on that, send it in. We'll have some waiver wire guys that we think you guys should go after or potential trade targets. So definitely talk to you guys during the week. And I mean, this is all fun. Last 2 weeks of football have been really fun, really
yeah.
fun.
They've been fun and also just some like surprises because who knows, one week your team could score 70 and the next week your team, the facility, every single piece of strength and conditioning equipment is stolen for what I know.
The
So
Chicago Bears, bro. That's one of the worst
organizations I've
weeks
ever
of
seen.
NFL organization has ever had.
Uh, well, guys, this was fun. Miles, can't wait to do this. Guys, we'll be back. And yeah, we'll see you then.